This is so exciting because, okay, so let me just take you down memory lane for a second. Back in 2020, when I first made my channel, I was the reader who loved YA romance. I feel like YA romance books remind me, even as an adult, that anything is possible. And yeah, sometimes it's just nice to have like a reminder of that, you know what I mean? So welcome to my channel if you're new. Hi, I'm Jaleesa and this is Bounded and Bookmarked. Back in the day, I used to do videos on a lot of YA books, specifically YA romance. That was my thing. That was my jam. And I haven't read them in a while. Well, I hadn't been reading them in a while, but I recently kind of got back into it and I'm happy that I have. Obviously, I love adult romance. It's my favorite genre. Okay, it's my favorite genre. But YA romance just has a special place in my heart because it's the genre that really kind of jump started like my reading, you know? So yeah. And I still read it to this day because honestly, it's just super sweet and I love it. So today I'm recommending to you some YA romance books. This is a video that's kind of been requested of me like months ago. I just kind of put it off because I hadn't been reading any YA romances. I've been reading more like YA fantasy, adult romance, so I just hadn't been reading them. I couldn't really recommend them to you. But I've kind of been reading a few like here and there every month. Not like a lot like I used to, but I have some over here to recommend to you and I'm excited. So all of these books for the most part are pretty light in content. Now I will say one or two of them may have some underlying themes of like grief and then chronic illness, but for the most part they're all pretty light-hearted books. So anyway, let's get into the books that I'm going to recommend to you. Disclaimer, some of these books I have already discussed on my channel. I'm not in like a recommendations format, but in a vlog format, so you will see them if you watched my vlogs. If you have seen my romance vlogs in the past, you will recognize some of these books. Some of them are newer, really haven't been talked about, so yeah. The first book is The Pickup by Moreno. This book was really cute. I gave it 3.5 stars. I was very hard on this book when I reviewed it the first time around, which, I mean, I think I still made valid points, but I think that there's definitely an audience for this book. This book is very cute. So it follows Mary and TJ, and Mary is visiting her dad in Chicago for the weekend only, so a very small amount of time. And in that time, her and I think it's her sister get into a rideshare with TJ and his brother. Of course, when she sees TJ, she's just like smitten. He's just this beautiful boy, and she is just like, wow, guys like him can exist, you know? It's awkward, obviously, in the rideshare for the two of them because they both are kind of just thinking like, oh, he's really cute, and he's like, oh, she's really cute. So it's just really cute. They end up actually going to a music festival for the weekend. So they end up being there together. Mary and TJ spend the whole festival together, and then they get separated. They get lost in the middle of a mosh pit, basically, and they're trying to find each other. So they had a really cute moment at the festival where they took a photo together, and people around them, they kind of saw like the, you know, the fireworks forming. And when they get separated, Mary enlists the help of everyone who was there to find TJ. What ends up happening is a hashtag goes viral with the picture they took together, and that's how they kind of reunite. And when they reunite, they get to finally spend the rest of the weekend getting to know each other more. And of course it's difficult because Mary doesn't live in Chicago, so there's a few things happening with this. Mary is trying to figure out if she want to come live with her dad and her stepmother. Does she want to continue to live with her mom? The reason why I really love this book and I'm recommending it is because it has kind of like that very summertime vibe to it. It is a very short book, and that was like my biggest complaint with this story, was I think it was too short. The premise was still very cute. I still loved the inclusion of social media and using a hashtag to help them find each other. There's like a very small discussion of abuse. I want to put that out there because that's important, but it's very short. So that was my other complaint. But we're not about complaints, it's about recommendations. You know, with the music festival, like Coachella just happened, and I don't know, I just feel like it's nearing like that time of like spring break for some students. Summer vacation's coming up pretty soon. It's a great little book to just take with you wherever you're going if you're going on vacation soon. And it was cute. I don't know, I enjoyed it. I think there's definitely an audience for this, and maybe you're one of them. So, and I actually read one of Moreno's books years ago called 4 Days of You and Me. Loved that book. It was one of the cutest YA romances I've ever read, so I'm also recommending that in a way too, I guess. Kind of keeping along the same lines of vacation and summertime. Sunkissed by Casey West, a favorite of mine. I love this book. I literally devoured it. This book follows Avery and Brooks. Avery and her sister are very much social media obsessed. Her sister more than herself, I would say, but Avery is an artist. She writes music and she's very talented. And she kind of keeps it to herself though. It's not like something she showcases a lot. Everyone around her thinks that she should, but she doesn't. I believe she's a junior in high school, but at the end of her school year, something happens between her best friend and her then boyfriend. And it's a lot of betrayal. Basically, her best friend kissed her boyfriend. Okay, so that was like trash on her part. But yeah, so best friend kisses Avery's boyfriend. So total betrayal from her best friend and her boyfriend, all of that. Avery's just feeling super down in the dumps, not happy. She's like stalking social media just to kind of see like what's happening with all, like with her friend and with her ex, and just, you know what it's like, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to see like what's come of everything that's happened. Her parents decide to take her and her sister away for the summer to a like remote camp where nothing works. No Wi-Fi, there's no cell phone signal, and they're not happy about that. So you have a social media obsessed daughter too, basically, and you're going to a remote location where you can't access social media. So obviously like there's that kind of very fun aspect of unplugging from everything, but it's very much needed for both of them and for their whole family, because they just have had a disconnect with two daughters who are getting older and like, oh, I don't understand you don't understand me. Like that whole dynamic is always so funny to me in books, but that's happening. Avery gets there not at all looking to meet a guy. Like she just wants to get through these 2 months and go home. She meets Brooks. Brooks is actually a camp counselor there, so automatically she actually can't date this guy. It's off limits. Like people who work at the camp are not allowed to mingle in that way with any of the people who are paying to go, like paying to stay there. Of course, we love a little rule breaking, and Brooks decides to get to know Avery more, and they both have this shared connection of music. And I think for a while the reason why I loved it in the beginning was because Brooks kind of gives Avery this like listening ear more than anything else. Like yeah, he thinks she's pretty and yeah, he's interested in her, but more than anything else he just kind of wants to know her, and vice versa. Brooks is kind of like, he has this bad boy persona, and I don't mean bad boy as in like he actually is bad, but he just has like this very closed off aura about him, except for with Avery. And it is just nice to see them kind of get to know each other and navigate these feelings and open up more with their music, which I loved. They write a song together. It was very cute, and the ending was so cute. Like at this little performance at the end, it was just cute. Like I'm sorry, this book was adorable. I love the backdrop of campgrounds. I mean, it's very present in the story. They do go on different like adventures at the camp, so they do things like hiking, they jump off cliffs, like they do all of these things, they go swimming, and you get to see it, and it really kind of feels like a movie. I might have to reread this book soon. It was very cute. So next up is a book that I read also last year. This is my second book by this author. Currently in the middle of her third book right now, which is coming out very soon, but it is Now That I Found You by Christina Forrest. I think I just love this woman. I love Christina. I think because her writing is just, it's everything that I enjoy about a YA book. It's sweet, it's tender, it really sits in the fact that like being a teenager is not that easy, and it does come with like its challenges, but it also has like a lot of freaking fun moments. I mean, I would go back to certain years, I think, but this book follows Evie and Milo. So Evie is destined to be this Hollywood star. She is supposed to be the it girl of Hollywood, until she's not, because of a scandal that happens because of one of her friends. Something about friends at this age, it's like you come by, like good friends are really hard to come by when you're a teenager sometimes, especially when you're a famous one. I mean, I wouldn't know it was famous, but still. But yeah, so Evie ends up in the middle of a scandal and she gets blacklisted in Hollywood. What that means is basically like no one wants to work with her, nobody wants to hire her, so she's jobless and she's not happy about it. So she flees California, but not in the sense of like just hiding. She actually goes to New York because she's trying to figure out a plan to basically like fix her reputation, and by doing so she's going to hopefully get in touch with her grandmother, who is the one and only Evelyn Conway, who is just like Hollywood's beloved, you know, like actress from years ago. Evie has found that she can't even find her grandma. Her grandma has like also fled and is also in hiding. The one person who actually knows her grandmother that she ends up connecting with is Milo. He works really closely with her grandmother. Milo and Evie take to New York City to find her grandmother, and of course throughout this whole journey they end up falling for one another. Milo is a talented artist. He's also in a band. He's in a band, which I love because you don't see a lot of black boys in bands in books. My point is though, give me black people who are in bands, because we are in bands. I'm not, but we are. You feel me? We play the drums, we play the freaking guitar, the cello, the violin. We're in these spaces. That's one thing I appreciate about Christina. She writes characters who do all these things, who do all things, because we can do anything we want to do. So the two of them, they end up going on this journey together to find Evie's grandmother. In the end, of course, all works out. Evie, she realizes what she wants out of life and out of Hollywood. Milo's music career, we get to see that kind of blossom as well. And we even see Evie's grandmother kind of drop some words of wisdom on these two youngsters here. So all in all, it's a great comfort read. I'm also in the middle of her third book right now, Zyla and Kai, so I will hopefully have like a review up for that soon. Next is a book that I loved. I don't have the physical copy yet. I'm gonna get it at some point, but I did just talk about this book in a vlog that I just posted a couple of days ago, and it is called Our Way Back to Always by Nina Moreno. This book was just everything. So this is one of the books that I should preface with saying that it does involve grief and discussion of grief and loss of a parent. But this book follows Lou and Sam, two childhood best friends turned to not best friends, turned to boyfriend and girlfriend. So this book was so cute, okay? Listen up, listen. If you get nothing else from this video, listen to this book synopsis, okay? Louisa and Sam have been friends since they were children. They literally live like across the street, so like Sam's house, Louisa's house. Super cute already, like that whole dynamic. We love that. These two, after 8th grade, stop being friends. Why, you may ask? Don't worry, I have the answer for you. Sam declares his love to Louisa. He serenades her and tells her exactly how he feels. And she is just shook as heck. She's just like, what? You love me? Me is who you love. It is me you was in love with. Like, that's the scenario, right? And so she freaks out. She's like freaking 13. Like, first declaration of love. They're young. She's mad at him. He's mad at her. You know, he's hurt. He was rejected. He doesn't understand. They don't talk for years. And then I believe when they're in 11th grade, maybe 10th grade, Sam's father, he passes away. And one night, Louisa and Sam do spend the night together. Like, she's just there for him. She's just there with him. And so after that night, though, they don't ever speak again until one day Louisa finds their bucket list that they made when they were in 7th grade. All these things that they wanted to do before they graduated high school. She has this treehouse. She leaves it in the treehouse. Sam climbs up there thinking that she's there, and he sees it as well. And so then they're like, let's just do it together, all those years ago. So the whole book follows them checking off their bucket list together. And the whole time they're just like, they're in love. Like, you just can tell that there's a deep rooted love there. And it is just, it's beautiful because I think out of all the books that I've read, this one does the best job of not making it seem like they can't be together, they can't be in love. It does take them a minute to kind of admit it verbally to each other, but they acknowledge it and they don't make it seem like it's a bad thing. And so when they do acknowledge it, they're just kind of like, finally, like, we can finally be like what we want to be. And there's like the inclusion of family is heavy in that book. I love the incorporation of like the community, because this is a very community driven book, I would say, especially because Louisa, her character, is into coding, so she actually makes this app that helps the businesses in her community, which is a great little kind of aspect to have in the book. It was very well rounded. I think that the pacing was perfect, and just the importance of like love, both platonic and romantic love between the two characters within their family. Like, it was just really enjoyable, and I loved it, and I will scream from the rooftops to read it. Don't wait. It is really a fantastic book. It is a hidden gem, and I think that everyone should read it. My next book is one that I also raved from the rooftops about when I read it. I do have a vlog, I believe, of me reading this book, and it's Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is not a new book by any means on BookTube, but maybe it's new to you. I don't know. The point is, I want to recommend to you great YA romance books that I enjoy, or books that I think that there is a great audience for. So if there's anything that you'll know about me, it's that I love social media. I am social media obsessed, you could say. Not in the sense that I love like pop culture, but I love the way social media kind of connects people everywhere. Like, it's so vast. So any book that has a heavy influence of social media in it, I'm gonna love it probably, and I'm gonna for sure read it. This here book follows Pepper and Jack. I don't know if that was like intentional, Pepper Jack, but it's one of my favorite ship names because it's very cute. But anyway, so Pepper and Jack couldn't be more different. Pepper she's very driven. She is all A's, very academic, an extracurriculars, swim caps. She goes to this kind of like elite school, and so she has to be at the top of her game to get into the best colleges. Jack is the opposite. He's a class clown. He cares about his grades, but not really. Like, he does enough just to get by. He just wants to enjoy life, have a good time. Both of them, however, are kind of in charge of their family's businesses' Twitter accounts. Pepper's, her family's business, or her mother and her mother's business, is a chain business, whereas Jack's family's business is kind of a mom and pop situation, very small, and not a chain business. Their Twitter accounts look vastly different. Pepper's family business is called Big League Burgers, and Jack's family owns a deli, and so the whole deal is that Big League Burgers has just committed this horrible crime, and they have stolen Jack's grandmother's recipe, and Big League Burgers is kind of like, no, we didn't steal anything. So now you have this feud going on, and it's public. It's happening on Twitter. They don't actually know that they're both behind the Twitter accounts for a while. It does get revealed later on, but they don't know that in the beginning, and so they keep it up, and eventually they do find out that they're behind the accounts, and they decide like to keep up the ruse and continue to have their little Twitter war because people love it, and it's good for business. And there is an app that Jack built. It's like this app where you can talk to people anonymously, but it's for the students at his school, and only for students. And so you get assigned like a fake username, and like you decide if you want to reveal yourself or not, but at some point you will get revealed to the other person. And lo and behold, Jack and Pepper end up talking on that app together, not knowing that it's each other. You get to see them get to know each other like in person, but then you get to see like this added layer of vulnerability on the anonymous app between the two of them, which I think is nice, because let's be real, sometimes it's easier to say how we feel through, you know, like texting or whatever. But it was just so perfect, and it was so cute. And then I also love the idea of, again, you know, what it's like being a teenager and having some agency for yourself, because these characters definitely struggle with the pressure their family puts on them. Pepper's mother puts pressure on her to be the perfect daughter and to run this Twitter account like a professional, which she is not. And then you have Jack's family, who just thinks that he's not smart enough or isn't as successful as his brother, but really, okay, he built an entire app that his family does not know about. It was just a great book, so well-rounded, included so many great aspects that I love in YA romances and in books in general. Discussions around social media, around family, around the challenges and the pressures of being told you have to be a certain standard in a certain way, otherwise you're not good enough and your value just plummet. All of these things wrapped up in one book, and it was fantastic. I loved it, and you should read it if you haven't already. Next is a book that I recently read as well. Also is in a vlog that I recently, or not a vlog, I also discussed this book in a recent video really quickly. Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. Oh my gosh. This book is one of my favorite books now. It was beautiful in so many ways, and it will sit on my list of favorite YA books that I've read ever, to be honest with you. So this beautiful story follows Zainab and Adam. So Zainab is the only Muslim girl in her class. She has a teacher who goes out of his way to really create assignments or have discussions in a way to kind of paint this picture that Muslims are bad. It's clear the prejudice is there. And so Zainab has been working with her friend to kind of gather all this information, all this background stuff on her teacher to expose him basically and to get him, you know, fired. And one day she gets caught drawing this picture in class, and to her teacher it looked like she was threatening him. In actuality, that's not what was happening, but you know, perspective. So she gets in trouble with the principal. She gets suspended for X amount of, you know, days, whatever. And during this time she ends up spending some time in Qatar with her family. Zainab's character is described as being kind of like this firecracker, very much like an activist, and a very bold one, which I personally love about her. I understand Zainab's character, just this drive she has to just make the world see that there is nothing wrong with who she is and what she believes, and I get that. And then you have Adam. Adam is so sweet. He's just like this very quaint character, if I could describe him, that's how I would describe him, like, but he also has multiple sclerosis, and he's just been diagnosed with that in this book, which I guess is kind of my warning coming into this book. Again, this one also kind of discusses grief because he lost his mother to MS, and so now he's having to navigate, like, how do I tell my family, like my sister, my dad, that I now have the same disease that my mother lost her life to. Seeing him struggle with that conversation, like, it was so heart-wrenching for me. Seeing a character with a chronic illness, y'all don't understand. Some of y'all do. Some of y'all very much do understand. It is just so nice, the visibility that's in here. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's also this book, this journal called Marvels and Oddities, right? And it's this journaling book that you can like write in, and they both own this book. Now, Adam knows they both own it. Zainab doesn't know for a while, and they actually are connected by this book. It's a kind of a small aspect of the book, I would say, but it's big in a way as well. Hard to explain until you read it. So just read it. It was beautiful. But I think the most beautiful part about all of this is that in the end, Zainab and Adam, because of the two of them meeting each other, they kind of force each other to see themselves clearly and to do the hard things. And I think that's what I love the most. And it isn't about like codependency, but it is about sometimes you meet people who just make you see things differently. This book is everything to me, okay? Okay. So those are all the books that I wanted to recommend to you today, all the YA romance books. But also, I'm thinking about doing a romance recommendation video for adults only. Not only, but for adult books only, I mean. So if you want that as well, like next, I can make that a thing next too. Because we're out here reading, okay? In these streets. Okay, so anyway, so I will see you on my next video. And as always, thank you for watching.